Hello and welcome to my podcast, Become. My name is Sabine and I am your host. The content will inspire you to reach your aspirations and become the best version of yourself. I feature interviews with successful individuals from various industries delving into their personal and professional journey, how they overcame adversities, and the strategies they used to achieve their goals. We have to become the person we are meant to be first, so we can live the life we are destined to live. That also means we must overcome challenges and work through difficult times to learn, grow, and become the next, more fabulous version of ourselves. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's get on this journey together. My guest today is Darlene Greene. She helps people optimizing their health and get to the root causes of issues that causing illness and get out of pain without drugs or pharmaceuticals. I am so happy to have her on the show. Not only will she share her tips and insights on how to do it, but she is also one of the co-authors of my upcoming book, Become. And I can't wait for you to meet Darlene. Welcome, Darlene. How are you today?
Sabine, it's so wonderful to see you, and it's so wonderful to be a co-author in your amazing book.
Oh, yeah, we had some great months behind us already, going through developing your story. I was developing my story, and I was in the process of also editing and coaching the other co-authors so that their story come to life. And in that process, I was so honored to get to know many of you, including you, Darlene. But for our listeners, can you just give us a brief background of who you are and where you reside right now?
Absolutely. I am Darlene Greene, a retired U.S. Navy commander. I served for 20 years. I had 3 commanding officer tours. I left when I retired from the Navy. I worked in technology, software, as well as the network and hardware and security. I've been a dean of the Culver Girls Academy, a boarding school, and I've also been a director of client services for network and security. My passion and my job now is as a senior director for LifeWave. I help people get out of pain and really activate their stem cells to reverse age, optimize the body for its own healing, and it's just magical.
Wow. I mean, with that short introduction of yours, we touch on so many different things, and you have done so many different jobs. It's just amazing to me that from a Navy officer, technology to a dean boarding school, and now what you do. Were you always passionate about serving in the Navy?
Actually, I wanted to fly jets. My dad was an Air Force colonel and he flew and he would come home in his flight suit, which looks really a lot like jammies to me. If you saw Top Gun, you know what I'm talking about. And he would say, "I can't believe they pay me to do this." And I thought, what a job where you go to work and you come home and you really say, and he would say that often, "I can't believe they pay me to do this." So he just loved it. And when he came home with the first photo of the first Air Force jet jocks, I looked at that picture and thought, wow, that would be really cool. I'd like to do that. And so I began thinking about it in high school. I ended up getting an Air Force ROTC and a Navy ROTC scholarship. I ended up choosing the Navy one based on master's programs and wanting to go to University of Virginia. And then my second year in college, my eyes went bad and I could no longer be a pilot. So I ended up doing shore station management, and that worked out great for me. I really enjoyed that a lot, but that was my beginnings in the Navy.
Wow, you touched on two very important things. The first one that you said, was your father came home and said, I can't believe that they pay me doing what I love. And I think this is super important for our life to be happy. And, I think back when I was a young actress and I was getting my first job somewhere South Germany in the Alps. And I was sitting there and I said, wow, they pay me being here. Or being in Africa directing a show, and I was sitting under the palm trees. I still remember that moment, but around the pool, I said, wow, and I'm getting paid doing this. So, but the thing is, if you love what you do and pursue your passion, what you want to do, the money will follow. And then the second thing that you said was that you were not able to go into that field that you wanted to go because of your eyesight. However, I also know sometimes the universe, throws perhaps sounds or looks like a curveball, but it was actually something for us to go to the next step, next level, and discover something new for us that we want to do and really enjoy.
Well, yes. I mean, one of the things that happens when you're in the Navy is you change jobs a lot. So you're changing sometimes every year, sometimes every 2 or 3 years. And each time I would go to this new job, I would think, oh my goodness, can I do that? I don't even know if they're putting me in charge. Are you kidding? I'm in charge and I don't even know the words that they're using. This is all Greek to me. And it takes a while, but I would say after maybe 12 years, I thought, well, I got this. Throw it at me. What do you want me to do? I can do this. I now had enough confidence that, it didn't really matter. Leadership is leadership. And you could put me now in charge of really anything. And I felt like I could learn to listen and work with the team and figure things out and guide us in a great direction. Really utilizing the strengths of my team. And so when I was retiring from the Navy, it was funny because the recruiters and people would say, well, what industry do you want to work in? And I would say, well, I don't know. It could be any of these industries I've had oversight of in my lifetime. No, you have to pick an industry. And I would say, well, why do I have to pick an industry? I could be in medical, I could be in information technology, or I could be even in mechanics and machinery and all sorts of things because I had some oversight or administration and training or all sorts of things. So it was interesting. It happened that the job opportunity that I loved the most of the ones that came out of the Navy was technology, and that launched sort of my world of technology. And I have loved that because it's always changing. It's very different. Leadership is a bit of a rarity in the world of technology because technologists don't always grow up very well mentored or led. And so it's a place that you can really take care of people in a way that they're not used to. And that's really neat. So yeah, that kind of led to technology for me.
It's interesting what you said. It's about leadership and it's about skills, learning the skills over the years. Nobody is perfect, and we keep learning until we leave this earth. That's my personal opinion. I think many can relate to that because we always grow. And as this podcast is so specific about the becoming process. We always become our next greater self. We always learn, we always overcome. And with that said, I believe that your life was not just what's the expression, sweet and creamy or peachy creamy. Here we go. That's an expression. And you probably also had challenges that basically helped you then become your next greater self. Can you think back on a time that was really difficult, challenging for you, but you overcame it?
I can. You're not wrong. There were. I didn't marry well twice, and I would tell you that I had significant health issues that came out of those challenging marriages and divorces. And as a result, I had things like PTSD and anxiety and trauma, and I had to get therapy, and I learned stress and coping mechanisms, and I learned, I really feel like I had lived a very blessed golden life for a really long time. And for the first time, I was really hurting and in survival mode for a while. And what happened as a result of that is it opened my eyes in a very different way to looking at other people. And as a result, when I was still in the military and I was a commanding officer over 1,200 people, 800 Navy, they were deploying overseas to war and coming back. And I witnessed and observed that they were not doing okay. Their marriages were not doing okay. And that they were depressed, they had PTSD, they were anxious, little things were setting them off, they were adrenaline junkies, there were just a ton of challenges. And the problem, uniquely for the Navy at this time, was that they had been deployed alone. They were literally lifted up and plopped in the middle of a joint unit somewhere or a larger unit, not taken over as a unit with, all of the spouses knowing one another and the unit knowing one another, and they go and they come back, but alone as individuals. And so I stood in front of like 400 of my team one weekend and I said, I think we can do a better job taking care of you and your families when you come back. And I would like to build a program that does that. I don't know what that needs to look like, but I bet you do. So can you come in and help me figure that out? And we began to work on a program back, this was 17 years ago, and we built it from scratch. Unfortunately, we went looking for something we could just take off the shelf and use, but there was nothing because this new augmentees as individuals was new. So we had to pull the best parts of that and create programs that helped people understand they were not alone. What they were experiencing was something that really they were all experiencing in different formats and different forums. And we got them, we built something called the Returning Warrior Weekend Workshop. And we had spouses come and we had military members come. We had about 120 of them in a weekend. And we did not only speaking sessions with keynote speakers talking about things like the code of the warrior and morality of war, but also things like PTSD and coping mechanisms and what it felt like and transitions. And something you would love, one of the presentations I gave was on transformational growth and becoming something newer and better and bigger out of what you were experiencing, that you couldn't really grow like that if you hadn't. And this program ended up being wildly successful. 100% of the people thought it was amazing and that they should have everyone go through it. And we ended up being asked to spread it throughout the Southwest, and then it was spread through the nation. And 17 years later, it is still in existence today, helping people with their transitions from war and their families. And I had a lot of people say to me that it saved their life, it saved their marriage, and it was one of the most amazing things that they had ever experienced. So it was incredibly intrinsically rewarding. But I would tell you, Sabine, that whole program would not have happened if I had not gone through my own trauma, if I had not had PTSD, if I had not seen and recognized the signals in somebody else. I was aware at a very different level. I had learned about stress. I learned EMDR for eye movement desensitization reprocessing, and I had therapists coming in. I also knew what to be careful of. I knew enough to know, okay, we could have some ramifications of this. So it was an amazing gift to me in that I got to help other people, and it was born out of something that was really very challenging for me.
What you just said is so true. Sometimes when we are in the midst of a situation or in the midst of trauma ourselves, we don't know what this can turn into. You already shared with us now what it helped you to do, impacting so many lives. And it's super amazing. And I don't want to go into all the details of your challenging situations and the failed marriages that you share in our book, and that really shows us we are not alone. And no matter through what challenging situations you go through, even if it leaves you with post-traumatic stress syndrome, you can use that. And I'm so glad and kudos to you that you
Mhm.
took advantage of your experience that was negative and turned it into good. Now, you also mentioned that it also impacted you physically. How did you overcome those health challenges?
Yeah, so I would say, with the first X, I ended up with a thyroid disorder and a thyroid removal. And with the second one, I had chronic fatigue syndrome diagnosed, fibromyalgia diagnosed, POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia. All of those are autoimmune disorders. And there was one year I was so sick. I remember being on 14 antibiotics in 12 months. It was really bad. I was just unable to be well. And I had to really learn a lot about health right away. I mean, so my kids grew up with us talking about, all right, did everybody eat all the colors of the rainbow today as colored by God? Skittles do not count. And you go through and we would see what colors did we eat today? What do we need to add to the mix at the end through vegetables or fruits and things? I had to work really hard at being healthy to be a single mom at that point. And I would say that that autoimmune those autoimmune disorders, while very challenging, all of them, particularly the POTS, the passing out at, just anytime you'd stand up and blacking out and really um, struggling to just stay upright, and at one point being grounded for 2 weeks where I couldn't drive a car while they tried to figure out what is this. And ultimately, you just have really low blood pressure, and we want to give you a drug to raise your blood pressure. That sounds like such a bad idea. And I was like, what are the alternatives? Well, there aren't really any alternatives. You can take in a lot of salt. And ultimately, I had to take this drug called fluorocortisol just to keep from passing out. But I kept looking. I'm not convinced that I think that the pharmaceutical world and doctors in Western medicine always have the answers. They are sort of trained in medical school to really look at surgeries and drugs and not necessarily wellness and things. I'm not even convinced they really know what chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia or POTS, what causes it, why you have it, or any of that. So I have always been very much a researcher, and I've been investigating and trying alternative therapies for a really long time. I mean, including going out of country for stem cells that didn't work for me, but I was trying that. I tried hyperbaric chamber, I tried ozone therapy, I tried hydrogen water, I do infrared sauna. I mean, you can't even imagine all the things. So imagine how happy I am today to have discovered something in all of my efforts that have removed all of my symptoms of all of my autoimmune disorders. Now it's just, I don't have to take that medicine. I don't have any signs of chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia. I am doing great. I don't have the regular migraines I used to have. I don't have the rosacea. I don't have the dry skin. I'm not even stress eating or emotionally eating at a time. And I can't even, like, that goes all the way back to high school. Like, I can't even remember the decade. It's been so long where I haven't done that in a time that obviously your listeners don't realize. I'm married to someone currently, my fabulous gift from God, my beautiful, lovely, wonderful husband, but he has early Alzheimer's. And so my days are not easy as a care provider. And this would be a time when all of those things, all of those autoimmune disorders and the worst of any of it would come out. And I really got it under control, and I'm doing really well.
How did you get this under control? I mean, these are quite some symptoms that you described, and it went on for a long time. Can you share with us what you did, or maybe just one thing that helped you?
Well, the thing that did the most good for me beyond anything else is when I began to activate my own stem cells. I'm now a stem cell activation technology consultant, and I help others activate their stem cells because it has absolutely transformed my life. It's changed my husband's life. It's changed my family's life. It's changed my friend's life. It is amazing. And so by activating your own stem cells, which by the way, I didn't know, but I've learned a lot. When you're 30, half of them are dormant. And when you're 60, they're almost all dormant. And by getting them to go to work for you and reducing inflammation, and they can be anything, they can be brain and lung or heart or liver, by getting them to go in your body and go to work for you, they start repairing things that these Western medicine doctors don't really know what the root of the problem is, but they go in and they resolve things, whatever they are and wherever they are, and all sorts of things. And so this tiny little patch that I wear, this quarter size patch that reflects light back into your body, there's no medicine in it. There are no contraindications for it. There is no one that can't wear this patch. Kids to 90-year-olds, it's all so safe. In fact, over 300 Olympic athletes were wearing this patch in the 2008 Olympics. Tom Brady, the Kansas City Chiefs, big sports athletes wear these patches, and yet no one really knows about them. And so part of my passion in sharing this is because if I would have known about this even just 2 years ago, 3 years ago, wow, my husband would be in a very different place. But I'm at least in a different place today because I was able to begin wearing those patches and got lifted out of a depression, and then took care of all of these autoimmune issues.
I can see how passionate you are talking about that. And obviously, when we feel better and we overcome all kinds of challenges, including health challenges, how good it feels. So I'm going to make sure we have your link in the show notes so people can get in touch with you, and you can do a consulting session with them. Your story, or I shall say stories, are absolutely amazing. And that's why you are one of my co-authors in our upcoming book, Become. And I can't wait for the book to be released because the stories are just beautifully written, and you will enjoy reading the stories and get inspired. Of course, I read all the stories. I was so inspired by your story too, Darlene, and I can't wait for the book to come out. So tell us, where do you live now?
Chandler, Arizona.
In Arizona. So it's what's the weather there now? Because here it's so cold.
It's going to hit 70 degrees today. Right now it's 63, which
Wow.
yesterday it was 67. So it's funny. I actually was outside earlier and I threw on a jacket, and I thought, oh, it's a little chilly, but not like the rest of it's so different than the rest of the place where people are snowed in and freezing to death. This is why we live here, though, because
Right. On the flip side, in the summer, it's like what, 110 degrees or something like that.
it is really hot in the summer, but it's beautiful in the morning and it's beautiful at night. And if you're in the pool in the middle of the day, you're great. Not always in the pool in the middle of the day, but it is at least air conditioned, and you don't have to shovel the sunshine, Sabine.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Darlene, thank you so much for being here today with our listeners. And I can't wait to hopefully see you in person very, very soon when we have our book signing. It's going to be a big thing. So let's all stay in touch. And if you want to learn more about the book, just stay tuned. We will let you know all the details when it's being released. It should be released this spring. So I can't wait to get that book into my hands and share it with as many people as we can. So once again, thank you, Darlene, and we will talk very soon.
Thank you, Sabine. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for your podcast, your books, all of the mentoring and love that you put out in the world. You're making a difference every day, and I really appreciate you. So thank you.
That was my interview. And if you enjoyed it, give us a 5-star review, leave a comment, and share it with your friends. Thanks for listening. Until I see you again, always remember, serve from the heart, follow your passion, and live the life you imagine.